time for the media news analysis. And joining us today in the studio to help make sense of the stories we've listened to that made it to our bulletin thus far is Barrister Darlington Agumore, a political commentator. Good afternoon, Barrister Darlington.
Good afternoon, Finan. How are you?
I'm good. Good to have you join today's conversation.
Yeah, David. How are you doing?
Fine, very well. Thank you. All right, Barrister, let's get to it almost immediately. Interestingly, before this analysis segment started, we're having a conversation, particularly on the passengers who missed their train. First off, how do you think, aside the fact that, yes, there's also the possibility that the passengers did miss the timing at which the train is supposed to have left, but how can this be managed on the part of government and, of course, the handlers of these trains to accommodate people who are late for their trip? Maybe not so late, but a little late.
I don't think the train managers need any apology, because that train is on a scheduled trip. And so we cannot wait for you. You are supposed to wait at the train station and board your train at the right time. So if you are left behind, you have yourself to blame. I don't think the train managers have any blame here, because Africans, you know, we have our own time. We are not used to time. You cannot continue, because we are talking of moving forward, not backwards.
So commuters should stick to the
time.
Departure time.
Exactly. What is there on their tickets? Okay. Because it is written there. So I don't even think they have any cause to complain at all. They don't have to.
All right, one of the passengers of the opinion that the train would have waited for at least 5 minutes before taxiing out, so that will give them ample time for them to board and everything.
The world can implode in 2 minutes, not to talk of 5 minutes. What are you saying? The world cannot wait for you even in a minute. Everything is time to precision. Why should somebody say that he should have waited for you for another 5 minutes? For what? Then the other person will now come and say, you would have waited for me for 10 minutes.
All right, then. So
what's the guarantee that that 5 minutes will be enough for them?
In other words, commuters should stick to their time schedule.
Exactly.
As
in fact, left to me, or nobody should refund anybody.
All right, then. Let's get to some political conversation now. Now, the National Assembly is talking, and at this point, the Speaker of the House, I'm talking about Tajudeen Abass, has said at this point, the House of Representatives is totally backing President Bola Tinubu's borrowing policy, insisting that, of course, borrowing is legitimate and a major tool for funding infrastructure. But the concern is the fact that the threshold at which the government is borrowing and, of course, the visibility of the borrowing as regards the Nigerian people is what some quarters are concerned about. But, Barrister, my question to you now would be, looking at this conversation about borrowing by any government at all, not just this administration, is it about time that our Senate and, of course, the representative clearly start holding accountable all executive what amount of borrowing they've gotten in any dispensation at all?
Tajudeen Abass is trying to correct himself. You remember that about 2-3 weeks ago, he made a statement indicting the Tinubu administration and their borrowing pattern. In fact, he even added that there's no transparency in this expenditure and all that. Apparently, he got a swipe from his party leadership. And so, in order to correct that,
you think this is what it's all about?
That is, if not, my brother, listen very well. You have overborrowed your threshold. You have overborrowed your threshold. So whatever they are doing now is what? Damage control. Nobody in the right sense will come and tell me that at 149 trillion, we should continue to borrow. Nobody in his right mind will say.
Now, Barrister, looking at our what the statutory threshold says about borrowing to GDP. 40% is what it should be on, but Nigeria now have exceeded. We're now at 52, and yet someone is saying something about them being in support of the president. And the Speaker of the House of Representatives said something. He said that that this present administration has been borrowing to help to fund the power sector, transportation sector, and agricultural sector. As a Nigerian, can you in any way tell us, any of the sectors that you can see you have seen, will I say, wonderful change or turnaround in their activities ever since we have a new administration on board?
None of them. The issue of power. The federal government of Nigeria have borrowed money for prepaid meter for all Nigerians. 3 times money has been borrowed for this purpose. And up to today, no sign that everybody has gotten that prepaid meter. I mean, how many are we that $500 million cannot provide prepaid meter for everybody? So the money has been going into a bottomless pit. That is why nothing is working. I can't see any section of the economy that somebody will point and say, yeah, this place is working perfectly well. The so-called infrastructure, where are they? Look at the roads. When each time a small rain drop, everywhere will be flooded. Road will become impassable. So where is this money going to? Potholes all over the place. Both federal road and state road. I didn't see any infrastructure going on. No, I didn't see. If not, let somebody come and convince me. All this so-called infrastructural whatever is the conduit pipe to siphoning money.
Barrister, during this particular committee or this particular, will I say summit now, the House of Representatives, the leader also made a statement to say that he's cautioning countries that borrow, especially Nigeria, alone without having any way or insisting that they're not having any way to curb corruption or even illicit financial flows in Nigeria. Now, Barrister, looking at Nigeria as a nation, we have a Fiscal Responsibility Act whereby each budget, we run a zero-based budget. Before you borrow another money or before you implement another budget, you're supposed to give us a breakdown account, a detailed account of what to do with the money initially. But we're not seeing from this present administration, especially the member of House of Representatives now, questioning the executive on how they spend this money. What does this really portend? Because we or Nigerians were hoping that at least before they will approve for another money to come in, they would have actually seen or received a breakdown of how the ones borrowed before have been spent.
What it portends is financial danger for all of us.
How do you mean?
Yes, because by the time you overborrow to the extent that you can no longer pay back this loan, what happened? The economy will implode. There will be problem. In fact, our creditor will come after our assets all over the world. The embarrassment is already there waiting. Remember what happened with our presidential jet somewhere when China went after it. So more will be coming if we are not careful.
Well, Barrister, a huge question that keeps bothering me is it a crime to borrow as a government?
In Nigeria, it is.
How do you mean?
Yes, it is a crime to borrow in Nigeria because we don't have the capacity to pay back. And the money you borrow, you don't put it into use. You only share it.
When you say we don't have a capacity to pay back, Barrister, that means we would have run into maybe loan default or debt default at this point in time. But we're still borrowing. IMF is still ready to give us funds. World Bank is still giving us money. We're still signing MOU. So when you say we are not viable to borrow, help us work on that.
You see, they are looking at your assets. Something they can hold on to, your oil. And you know that oil is the mainstay of this economy. So if you can no longer pay back, they will not get hold of your oil. And that means strangulating the economy. So they are not borrowing to because you have the capacity. No. They are borrowing because they have something to lay hands on if you can't pay back.
All right then.
And if you can pay back, the loan wouldn't have become as big as it is. Okay. We are not paying back.
All right then. Barrister, before we jump off this conversation, maybe in 30 seconds, the place of the parliament as against the passing of the threshold of borrowing as for Nigeria as a country, do you think as it stands, the parliament can do better than what we are seeing presently when it comes to surpassing the threshold of borrowing from this administration and of course next administration, as it were, because it's very concerning, just like you mentioned earlier?
You know, when you want to blame the parliament, you ask the executive who always bring this thing for their approval, what were they thinking? Because I know this government, if the parliament want to assert themselves, they will not use them as an excuse that they are the one that made them not to make progress. They refuse to assign the loan they apply for. And that loan would have made Nigerian economy to be bigger than that of China and America put together. They will look for something to blackmail the assembly. And so, with a greasing of palm here and there, I think Natasha told us what happens. They will approve any loan that the executive bring before them. That is why the thing is getting worse and getting higher. If
that then is the case, Barrister, then why would the Abass Tajudeen, be calling on African Parliament to make sure that they enhance budget scrutiny by strengthening fiscal oversight, to avoid plunging the continent into financial leakages?
True talk. Nigerian government, they are good at double standards. They speak from both sides of their mouth.
Is that what you think he's doing?
Well, if not, why not? Why can't you show example with yourself? Or you think the whole world is not seeing what's going on in Nigeria? The profligacy and the wastage. So why can't he use Nigeria as an example while he was talking? Then we can now say, so those people are not listening to him. They are just observing a protocol and courtesy.
All right then, but Barrister, still staying in the parliament. Interestingly, no fewer than 750 women did stage of peace work in Abuja, particularly on the fact that the long-awaited special seat reserved for women bill has not been passed. Concerns are being raised about the amount of people with disabilities and even females in the Legislative House. From your perspective, Barrister, why do you think this bill is being stalled? Because that is what these protesters are clearly saying, that this is an act of practically not wanting to include enough women in the Senate, which again might possibly bring a different perspective to legislation in Nigeria. Why do you think there's been a major stalling of these particular bills?
Like every other laws in our constitution, that particular law is on paper. In reality, it will never see the light of day. Never. Because
why do you say so?
Nigerian politicians and men, they are too selfish and too ambitious. They wouldn't want a woman to take their place. That is the truth. So they have made the law quite all right, but to what end? Are you not aware of so many of our laws that are there, nobody is observing them? So is it this one that a man will allow a woman in his constituency?
But Barrister, do you think that this particular bill is more like going to take Nigeria to the right direction? I'm talking about giving 10% exclusive seat to women and 5% to people with disability.
Ordinarily, it ought to, but in reality, is it?
Now, looking at the fact that Nigeria is talking about economic meltdown, in total, House of Rep and the Senate, we're having, I think, 400 and something members in total. Now, with additional 108 coming on board, do you think Nigeria is viable enough for them to be able to sustain such move?
We are not.
So what then do you think we should do?
They should stop all this profligate because it's not helping us. In fact, we are talking of a single legislative house.
No longer bicameral.
Like, what's it called? The one they have in Senegal or so. There are many countries with, a single legislative house. And you are not better than them in any form or shape.
Interesting point.
So this one is just waste of money for the boys and all that.
Some persons were of the opinion, Barrister, that instead of giving 108 seats to women, that they should find a way to push out or carve out or eke out 108 from already existing. Whereby instead of each federal constituency now bringing in 3 men, they should make it 2 men and 1 woman, and so doing they will have a balance of maybe this particular number of persons that they need from women and people with disability to represent them. Do you think that will help out?
It will not help. Like I told you, most men will not even allow that, because they will claim that the woman wants to take their place. You can imagine a consistency where a man has been positioning himself to become a senator. All of a sudden you say it must be a woman. The man will do everything to subvert it.
Interesting.
They may even eliminate the woman.
All right.
That's the truth.
Barrister, let's move away from that to a statement made by a political activist, Usman Bugaje. He came up to warn that Nigeria's democracy could collapse if the credibility of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, continues, to be undermined, and the appointment of the chairman of that electoral empire still reside in the hands of the president. What do you have to say about this, given the fact that Nigerians are already talking about electoral reform and how we're going to maybe vote in the next chairman of INEC instead of allowing the president to appoint Tinubu'S to be the one in charge of that umpire?
The name is Independent
National Electoral Commission.
National Electoral Commission, INEC.
Right.
But are they independent? You can see that some of this nomenclature is on paper. In reality, it is not practice. It cannot be practice. That is the problem of Nigeria electoral system. We deceive ourselves and the whole world thinking that we are clever. We are not clever. They are seeing through what is going on in Nigeria. Look, no matter who is going to be appointed or elected, as long as the Nigerian politician or the ruling party does not want free and fair election, it will never happen. They must find a way to untwist the INEC chairman. They must find a way to subvert it. They must find a way to have their way. As long as that sincerity is not there, there is nothing you can do about it. Whether the man is appointed or elected by people and all that, it doesn't hold water. The ruling party will want to use their muzzle to have their way. And that is the truth. That's the fact. So it's not, after all, these other people that that were elected, what is going on there? Your governors, were they appointed? Are they not being teleguided as we speak? Look at what's going on in Rivers State. So
but Barrister, before I jump to another conversation, in less than 30 seconds, how do you think the Independent National Electoral Commission can fully be independent, aside the fact that as it stands, the reforms, as clamored by Nigerians on the electoral body, is not being looked at by the legislators? What do you think can be done right?
Yes, it is left for you to go to National Assembly, impress it on them that, look, you need this electoral reform. IREV and BVAV should become legally binding on INEC. They must. It will now become a law that any vote that did not come through IREV and BVAV is null and void. So that, let me see how they will now go and import votes that are not there. So unless you do that as a citizen, they will not listen to you, because the people that are enjoying the status quo, they wouldn't want it to change. That's the truth. You are the one who's supposed to fight for this change.
Okay.
As it's done all over the world. But if you sleep on your right, nobody will wake you up. Nobody.
All right, then. Thank you so very much, Barrister. This is where we have to draw anchor on the analysis segment of the Midday News this beautiful afternoon. We've been talking with Barrister Darlington Agumo, who is a legal practitioner right here in Nigeria. Once again, Barrister, thank you so very much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
The rest of the Midday News will continue shortly, just after this quick break. Please stay with us.